Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. There you can see it, the one and only, the mouse, the meme-producing machine, and this is a replay sent in by General Lee 2000, which according to all the American things that are here on this tank, seems to be a proud American citizen. So, the mouse. It's such old content, not like the new Swedish tanks. It is still exciting, and it is, I think, a favorite of the community, just its existence. But not a lot of people try to have a good go in the mouse. In fact, the mouse was removed. The mouse was removed from the tech tree to be researched, but only those who have it or began the research still can complete the research or keep it. The mouse is one of the heaviest and one of the slowest tanks in the game. In fact, with 188 tons of German steel, it is the heaviest tank. I think followed by the E100 with 150 tons. And yeah, the thing about this thing is it is also slow. Top speed forwards and backwards is roughly 20 kilometers per hour. It's equipped with a 128mm gun derived from a naval artillery piece found on German destroyers, but with a significantly longer reload. For an ace crew it's roughly 18 seconds, but it has, believe it or not, a short barreled 75mm coaxial cannon that can fire heat and smoke rounds and HE rounds if you take it precisely, but nobody uses this. So the mouse is a true heavy tank, and when you get it into the right circumstances, it really shines. This is what I think comes down to the old meta, the old armor meta, where angling and aiming for weak spots was a thing. These days, battle rating 7.7, the new tanks have all AP FSDs and have all stabilizers, autoloaders. It goes even down to 6.7 where the madness really begins. You know, M56 Scorpion, M50 Ontos, the T114, to name here only the American tanks that have high pen heat shells. And then also the USH 405 for the new Swedish tech tree, the armored car or tank destroyer, whatever you want to call it, that has two 81mm rocket launchers that can fire every 0.5 seconds. It's ridiculous to have such things. Disaster strikes as he fires his first shot into the gun barrel of a Carnarvon, and that Carnarvon keeps going. He also hides behind here the bush to deny a good shot from the IS-3, and just before he can reload, the Carnarvon smokes up, reverses, and before he can pull the trigger, he reverses his direction to go forward again, surviving him the return shot that was otherwise relatively well aimed. As I said, long reload here with 18 seconds, and then again the IS-3 also reverses back around the corner and now gets smoked up. The mouse is an absolute beauty, and I played it once excessively, and when it worked, it was absolutely fascinating. First kill here on the Centurion Mark 10, which was not able to use his stabilizer and DL7 with its APDS versus the mouse, and yeah, that is the one thing about the mouse. When it's 128mm pens, there are just no survivors. Nearly a lot of TNT equivalent. He sees the MX-13, he could have hull broken in probably with the heat shell, but he just wanted to make sure that this is his second kill, so he fired the big gun. So he also sees the M41 Walker Bulldog through the piping, but he couldn't do anything about it, and he doesn't really go for that kill. The reload is too long, turret rotation is too slow, and he also doesn't see here the IS-3 behind the trees. There is the T-30, both disabled and distracted by the RU-251, and that makes the lower glacis shot for his third kill all the more easy, while the IS-3 bounced off the side of the mouse. Now General Lee swings the 188-ton tank monstrosity around and goes for the IS-3. So the IS-3 has reloaded by now, and he shoots him, reverses, dodges the shell from the IS-3, as funny as that sounds. IS-3 is tracked and distracted by another tank, and that makes the shot for the turret ring all the more easy. Then an M48 comes around, gets tracked, crashes into the concrete wall, and then the heat shell actually hits his engine, and so he uses again the 75mm with its rapid rate of fire to just disable here with this shot, I think, the gunner of the M48, and then he just tries another 75mm, but he ends the business. They forward the M48 with the 128mm. The heat shell has the stock one 80mm of penetration, the upgraded one 100mm, which is fantastic. So now what to do, and he decides to turn around and then again to swing the other direction, because he cannot be sure that from this position he gets outflanked, or he has to reverse course, as funny as it sounds. So this was what to do moment for General Lee, and he decides to show us the good reverse gear of the mouse, going backwards at roughly 20 kilometers per hour. He sees the Carnarvon, tries to turn around, but the Carnarvon is in cover then. He sees it, and then he finally decides to go into the objective to capture it together with his team that already began that capturing process. So as you can see, all the faces, all the memes with the mouse, a teddy bear on top of the 128mm gun, a mantlet, and it is just a beautiful sight. It's one of those old school tanks, and I don't really agree with Gaijin to remove this thing for new players. He gets a short glimpse of the tortoise, he wants to reverse to finish the job here, and then he sees on his side, oh boy, an M26E1 long-barreled 90mm being able to penetrate the side, but not with this shot as he tries to pen the side of the turret. Bad mistake. Long reload on the long-barreled 90mm for the M26E1, and then look at this trick. He tricks the M26E1 into thinking that he just shot the machinery with the main gun, but that main gun was still loaded. And this is also one of those awesome tricks that you can do with the mouse to fire the 75mm to miss the enemy when he is around the corner, or just bounce off. It doesn't really matter. They think they now have the easy shot on you because you're so slow, you have such a long reload, and then they forget that it was only the 75mm. In the past, it was fairly easy to distinguish those sounds between the 75mm and the 128mm, but then I haven't played the mouse since then, so I don't know how different the gun sounds sound by now. Anyways, so that was a shame that he didn't get the kill here on the tortoise. He pumped in a big shell anyways, just for good measure, just to make sure that this British heavy tank destroyer is doomed anyway. So now they go for B, and the Leopard 1 is just simply quicker. And yeah, this is how in German you pronounce that tank's name. Leopard 1, not Lepra, not Leopard, not anything like this fake British pronunciation. He sees that there is some action going on in the gap of this factory hall building. But anyways, he does not really want to engage those enemies. He don't want to wait for too long. He bounces a shot again on the side of the turret of this M4, which was very wise to hide behind the building here. And he still goes forward with the mouse. And this is kind of this tricky situation where it's so easy and it takes you so long that you eventually have a tank behind you. And just as ordered, there is an M46 with the short-barreled 90mm, and so he can swing around the hull and the turret to get the gun on target for an easy lower glacis shot, and in return he absorbed that shot with no problem. And again he reverses into the cap. Again, this is one of the strengths of the mouse. A lot of medium tank drivers actually underestimate how quickly the mouse can go in reverse. And now he just smokes up the direction of where he suspects that some enemy tanks will come from. There are two tanks behind him that hopefully also smoke him up and also clear the other side. And so he went for his second cap. And already 7 kills. That would be a good result for me, and I proudly would show it on YouTube anyways. But I think General Lee 2000 is not done yet. So let's see what happens. And he goes forwards. He goes forwards back to A because I think his spider senses are tingling. If you look on the minimap, there are no tanks between the enemy cap, between A, the capture point, and also the spawn point. So he looks into the direction of where we can see now, thanks to the replay, tagging the T-25, and then we can see an M56 Scorpion, and they both spot each other at the same time, and the heat shell from the 75mm hull breaks that pesky American 6.7 tank destroyer that threw all its advantages away, like the insanely ridiculous mobility and maneuverability and small size, just to take on a mouse from the front. Yeah. And then, in a spot of good luck, he also sees that the M46 is distracted, and that is yet again another easy shot on the lower glacis. So again, General Lee 2000 knows how tricky the 128mm APCBC rounds can be. You shouldn't take any chances, you should make the safe shot. And then the extremely high bursting charge of that said shell is really doing the rest to crew. So as long as you pen the crew compartment, it might be even enough to pen here a cupola shot. It does the job for you, because those, 786.5 grams of TNT equivalent do the rest. The maximum penetration is 272 millimeters, and that is not enough to go through the gun mantlet of yet another M26E1. And the long reloads, well, at least he tracks him with the 75, and he gets himself right in front of the M26E1, and he tries to angle the turret, but it was not enough, and the M26E1 actually gets the gun breach of the mouse. He tries to go for the cupola, and now he realizes he needs to disable that long barrel 90mm, and the best chance is again to go for the muzzle brake, which is fairly prominent on those American long barreled 90mm, and sadly he actually got his gun breach, his gun barrel, and also two of his crew members, and now they bounce each other and they just try in this standoff. The M26E1 makes crucial mistakes here, as he wiggles not just